What is going on, family? Hopefully you're doing absolutely wonderful. Welcome back to another Stock Sermon Sunday. This is the time where we go through everything in the marketplace, from the highs, the lows. We're at all-time highs right now, and we're trying to ask the question, is it due for a pullback, or do we have more upside ready to go? So with that being said, this is live. So if you're here rewatching this, you're more than welcome to skip ahead to where I'm sharing my screen. As always, if you'd like to join Leverage University, which is our platform hub where we're having trading, community chats about life, business, finances, as well as obviously the stock market and our trading floor, which you'll see once we share the screen here. So as always, I appreciate your time. I'm trying to get quicker at these. So we'll spend about an hour, maybe an hour 15 or so together here on this live. So I want to make sure you have the levels for the week, how you should approach the week. And it's not been easy. I'll address some things personally that I believe makes the summer months a little bit tougher to trade. So I will give it a little second for folks to kind of chime in here and come in. I'll post it in the Discord and we're ready to go. We are ready to go. All right. Let me go here. Perfect. All right. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Let me know where you're tuning in from down below. And we are ready to rock and roll. Ooh, everyone. After me is live. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Gonna pull this stream from here. It's like, Brian, you should have done this already. If you're new to us, welcome. If you've been referred or you just happen to stumble upon this video, we're going to get started because I know I've watched lives before and sometimes it just kind of hangs on. So I want to make sure they're not just hanging on by a string, and make sure that you're getting the value necessary to go ahead and get your levels and get up out of here. All right, let's share the screen and jump into it. All right. So as always, if you have any questions down below, you're more than welcome to go ahead and put it in the chat feature. If I can't get back, if you comment after you've watched this, giving specific levels, then, you know, hopefully you can scroll them in the video and see different things that you have as far as questions, right? So I always try to do the core, whether it's, SPY, QQQ, IWM, as well as our core stocks, our Magnificent Seven typically. And yeah. So this is our Discord. If you'd like to join, you can see here the extensive organization of it. Over the left-hand side, we have our community hub, thought leader hub. And if we click into it, it typically pulls down more channels and chats there. Community, channels, chats, right? Crypto, channels, chats, trading floor, right? Right there is where we reside. So we don't only just do trading. I think that gets misconstrued sometimes as day trading and really fast. We also do swing trading, which typically works well for people that are a little bit busier, that want to hold the trades maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month, maybe throughout 6 months or a quarter, maybe even a year, which we call a leap option, as well as shares. Is, of course, we do put those there where there's good share buying opportunities. Obviously, you can always dollar cost average, right? Just turn on a recurring buy in your brokerage. But we do have specific charts here that we get really, really granular on where a great buy is for a lot of these stocks. Okay. Without further ado, let's jump into the economic calendar. We'll get started here. Busy week, as I call it. If you've been watching me for a minute, we have a free Monday, FREE. That just simply means nothing's on the docket, nothing's on the calendar for interruption. So that could be low volume potentially in the stocks. It could kind of move a little sideways. We could just move in one direction if it decides to continue upwards. If we continue downwards, it could just grind down, right? But it's the day before CPI, and it's the day prior, 2 days prior before PPI, right? So typically my strategy on Mondays like this, if there is a good setup, then we could potentially take it, right? But typically you want on Mondays to kind of let the market settle in for maybe the first 30 minutes to an hour, and then start to see what direction, how we're moving, and then we can potentially take a trade. But the best trade opportunities are going to be post the CPI report. So it comes out an hour before the market opens. Then you can start trading here and go from there. Same thing on Wednesday, trade after the PPI report before the market opens. We have a couple of Fed speakers, And then we have initial job claims, retail sales, and some other Fed speakers there. So heavy week towards the latter half of the week. So I do believe it's going to be a good trading week as far as volatility and volume, but you just got to be patient for those setups. And the question is, why would it not go higher, Brian? It's bullish, right? We keep going higher. It's because we're in this thing called extreme greed. Okay. It may be at the top end of greed, but I think it's extreme. There we go. So when we're in these cautionary extreme greed points, if I go to the timeline over here, okay, you can see what happens when we get in extreme greed. Look at this timeline at the top. This was back in mid-October, right? Mid-October last year, 2024. You can see right there, it starts to pull back right towards the end of October, right? Pretty heavily. So it goes back into fear pretty quickly, right? When we get here, same thing, maybe pulls back just slightly, nothing major. And then we're up in extreme greed again. Okay. So I would expect that we only have a little bit higher to go until something comes in. It could be PPI and CPI. We don't know. Right. But I do believe there's going to be that catalyst that sends us lower, and we'll see what happens from there. All right. Let me get the charts up. And we're also approaching earnings season. So we got earnings season. Airlines did amazing for the first half of the earnings. I do believe that finance is coming up. So I need to check that as we go through here. Let me get off of this because every time I'm on the CNN business, it always kind of slows us down a little bit. All right, let's go into Twitter. All right, and let's go into earnings. Here we go. Pretty heavy. Tuesday, JP Morgan. We got Citibank. We got Wells Fargo. Heavy trading week for earnings. So these are going to be all top watches on finance. Okay. And when finance is either strong and or weak, finance has a heavy factor in the S&P. So SPY is going to be on high alert. If finance comes in very strong, then we're going to have SPY that's going to probably push to the upside as well. And the market may rebound pretty quickly. So, and continue to highs. We have ASML in the semiconductor space. We have United. That should be pretty good. And then we have TSM that I'll be watching there on Thursday morning, as well as Netflix, big mover for sure. American Express into the week. And then 3M typically has some pretty decent movement on its earnings. So we're heavy into earnings season here. Johnson & Johnson is typically a sleeper as well. So I want to watch that. But yeah, review this. Okay. I'm going to post it in our Discord. Review this because these could be some of the stocks that you can trade post earnings report. So if it reports before market open, then you can trade that market open with that particular stock if it has a lot of volume. Okay. Same thing as if after hours, the next morning, you can typically trade that particular stock if it has a lot of volume. Okay. All righty. Let's go into our charts and get the levels on SPY and our respective core stocks. Okay. Let's go into a 4 hour. Let me go into a daily actually. One thing I noticed on the daily here is that if I turn on these moving averages, I like the 20 and the 200-day moving average on typically a daily time frame. You can see that SPY is above both of them, right? We had that cross right there, and it's just riding the wave of that 20 moving average. But as the further away it gets from that moving average, sometimes it likes to gravitate back to it to retest it, okay? Very similar to what it did here, okay? So a lot of times these can be targets for the pullback. You see here, we got it way above it. And at some point it kind of pulls back to kind of test it and then continues higher, right? Pulls back to test it, continues higher, right? And that's what you're seeing there. Okay. That if we do decide to look at this as resistance underneath 626.87, then is this a break of trend, double top, lower high, and we come down like that. Okay. So it is a possibility. But we got to wait for the signal for that to happen because this is simply consolidation up here. And if I draw it here, this could be looked at as just a consolidation like that. And then is it going to break down? Or is it going to break up? Right? So we'll see what happens, but I'm highly looking at this. It's just going to wait until finance reports or something happens in the market Tariffs are back on a little bit. There's, August 1st date, that kind of thing. So I'll be simply watching the bottom end of that last daily candle close, which is 622.75. Then I'll mark the low of the candle day, which was 621.59. Okay. So those are the levels that I'm looking at as support. As long as it's above this zone right here, if you want to mark that on your charts, then we are technically still bullish. All right. Now, if we have some type of higher time frame candle that may close underneath that 623 level, right, then we maybe could look, but it needs confirmation to get back below the previous day low. All right. So I would need it to get back underneath this previous day low like that. And then we retest and then we can come lower, right? Or break above previous day high, which will be above I'm going to just put it as yellow right there. Above 624.83. And we can go up and hit to the highs again. Okay. So kind of in limbo here for SPY, just waiting on earnings. QQQ. Let's go here. Now, tech is kind of, the profit taking is happening. It's warranted, right? So here's this trend break here that I'm looking at on tech. All right, let me pull it up there like that. Like that. Okay. So this is a typical setup that I like, but I need it to, continuously form this change of direction. So if I'm looking at this change of direction, it's going something like this. Right now, if this flips back up and we get back above it, CPI comes in good, whatever, and we go higher, then we can just look at the highs of above 558. Okay. Trying to target that 560 plus. Okay. But if we remain below that previous day high underneath 556, then we could continuously probably form these lower highs. And then finally it takes out the low 552. And then we start kind of rolling over here. All right. So still kind of in limbo. We need to see what the next day opens up as. If it reclaims and gets a new high, then we're going back up 560. But I will be watching that 560 psych level. Okay. 560 psych level. All right. IWM. I actually like IWM because I signaled in the community that we were looking at calls on IWM on this pullback. I just like the chart personally above this 200-day cross right there. It's got nice support coming in. It's been really strong. It's above 220. All right. So anywhere 220, 221, if it can hold this, right, then I'm looking for IWM to try to retest the high like that. Okay. So we'll look out for IWM on some calls. Now, if it breaks below that 220, then we can get a little bit more drastic down into this 216, 217 area, right, which would technically still be some type of higher low, right? Higher high. All right. Let's jump into the core stocks. You can see the futures are down, right? Futures are down. Okay. Let's jump into Apple. Okay. Apple consolidation happening right here. And we've got Apple earnings coming up at the end of the month. Okay. So I really want to watch Apple. You can't predict it necessarily, but it's been one of the most beat up stocks. As you can see, it's just been consolidating down here like this with a gap above. And I personally think Apple, might have some decent guidance, some new news on, they've got the new iPads and iPhones coming out pretty soon. So, this is past quarters, but I think it's not going to be all about guidance, what they're talking about this coming in the fall. So if they do decent on their earnings, they have positive outlook for the fall, then on their new releases, I think this could break up. So you would simply be looking above this previous highs right there, which will be above 214 confidently, and break up out of this. And I'm really trying to target like 225. Okay. All right. 220 is the first target, but then 225 is kind of that next target right there. And it would look something like this with a candle. Right. It would look something like that. Okay. All right. Google had a very strong Friday push and now starting to form. I told folks this Google is a sleeper, right? It's just been grinding up. And now we're starting to see kind of somewhat of a weekly hammer that formed, kind of an equal two hammers here. As you can see, hammer candles, a lot of buyers holding up that 173 level, 173, 174, right? Coming off of that. If If I just mark it right there, 173. Okay. If I go to the 4 hour, you can see we're trending upward. So as long as we're above this 174 level, right, we can continuously try to ride Google up. So Google, one of the stronger names, they've got earnings coming up at the end of next week. So I do believe Google is a buy personally. And if it drops into earnings, buy more. All right. If you're looking at options, I think personally buy, let's just say, going into the fall time, just say end of August or September timeframe, I personally think Google can get to 190, but it also could flop, right? We've seen that before. It could come right back down here. So I think shares are safe. Options before this, just make sure you put enough time on it where Google will be back up at 200 before you know it. Okay. It'll be back up at 200 before we know it. Fill in that top end gap, very similar to what Microsoft did for its earnings in the springtime. Okay. So Google, pretty clean chart there, above 174. We are bullish, extremely bullish. That's daily 20, daily 200. There we go. Amazon, another bullish stock here. I'm just putting, like I said before, have been putting Amazon and Google right next to door to another, looking very similar here, stair stepping its way up. Now Amazon's above the daily 20, which is right at 218, okay, and some change. So as long as Amazon's above that 218, it's going to just try to grind up to that 230 level. So if you get a pullback on Amazon and it holds down here at 218, I will give it a little bit more room, maybe. All right. We could look at it ticking down into maybe like, if the market pulls back a little bit heavier, maybe 215. Okay. So if it does something like this and it holds that 215, I really don't want it to break below 215 because that's that previous high right there. So I really want it to hold this or just maybe pull back to 220, right? It could just grind and hold this 220 and then continue up. Okay. So 230 target right now on Amazon, at least for the short term. Now, ultimate target back to all-time highs, right? But again, we're in extreme greed. So does it want to have a deeper pullback, shake folks out like this, and then ride the wave right back up? Okay. So prepared for everything, but pretty clean levels on Google and Amazon. NVIDIA, starting to give somewhat of NVIDIA, first of all, made a major move. We got to look at it right here. From those extreme lows, we got 100% return on our money if you bought it anywhere in the 80s, even if you call it the 90s or low 100s for shares, right? Just the share alone, you doubled your money, okay? But now, since this is 100% return, most likely there's going to be some profit taking. And if I look at this type of candle, this is more of a inverted hammer candle, right? Which signals that some profit taking or sellers stepped in just a little bit. Okay. So with that being said, if this takes out the previous day low, which is 163.70, if we do get back below that, then we could drastically pull back into that 160 level and then 158 level, somewhere around here. Okay. That will be the first kind of pit stop for a pullback. If we do come back, tick into there and then go higher, my next level will be back into this daily 20 all the way here, which would be 153. Okay, so I got both of those levels for a pullback into. Now, just say it doesn't want to pull back and it grinds and takes out the new high. Just look for 170. Nice psych level there. We'll react off 170 what it does. But yeah, 170 is that target that's close enough. Okay, AVGO. I really like this chart if I can see some weakness on the market a little bit, because this is typically my ideal kind of trend break setup, but it needs to show me something the next day, right? So it's grinding in this channel, AVGO, obviously the strongest semiconductor. Let's see what it had from the lows right there, 107%. Okay. So I will be watching this a little bit if it gets below that 272 level. Okay. And if we want to wait for it to get below 270 and then retest and struggle a little bit, then we can maybe ride it down. Right. So I just want to pay attention to what it does kind of in this little trend break here, but technically still in support as long as it's above that 270 level. But I want to keep an eye on AVGO for a trade if the market gets a little bit weak. So you want to have your go-tos if the market starts pulling back. Which ones will give you the best risk to reward to pull back on? Maybe NVIDIA because it's giving that, inverted hammer. Maybe AVGO if the market pulls back, it would be, this trend break here. Okay. Google just looks super strong riding the wave up, and Amazon looks super strong. But those could be options as well if the market pulls back. But I just probably let those pull back and then get the dip bought. Okay. AMD, just bullish, just extreme. I don't really necessarily, it's bullish, but I don't like the entry in AMD, as y'all know. Like, you either love it or hate it. But I do like trading AMD when there's gaps. It usually fills gaps very, very well. And that's just from trading it for a while. So I would consider this more of a bull flag, trying to take out that high and go into 150 plus, right? But, and the only reason I say that is because how strong this 4-hour candle is right here, right? That candle is pretty strong. So if it matches it, then it should yield something like that if it matches the strength of that candle, okay? But as you can see, we do have a gap below, but that candle is so strong. So AMD, nothing to write home about. Oracle, it's kind of like AVGO. It's just made an immense move in a short amount of time. If we go from the lows back to the highs, 113% return on your money if you caught it all the way at the lows, right? And you can start to see here that it's just trend breaking just slightly, right? It's right on there, right? Where it tried to kind of bounce higher and continue this takeout, but it ended the day off with a lower high, okay, on a daily. RSI on Oracle as well, daily right there. I'll just be watching 230. If it breaks like underneath 230, we could get potentially a 10-point move very quickly, right? Here's a big candle push right there. And typically it matches the candle if it breaks and comes over like that. Okay. So Oracle, my only thought is just watching the price action of it tomorrow, and watching the price action of AVGO, and watching the price action of NVIDIA with that inverted hammer. Google, Amazon, Apple, probably just sit on my hands until, you know, a more big move happens. It's just grinding right now. We haven't talked about Palantir in a while. I miss kind of trading Palantir, but this is ugly action up in here, right? It's like you can scalp, but this grind up here is not really giving a pullback yet. Like, you want something like this, down, up, another low, bounce, down. Like, you want bigger swings. So I do pay attention to when things are in a grind, because typically the grind has some type of trend break or breakout or big move is coming. And I'll typically mark it off like that, go here, like that. And I'll have my little channel to go off of. Okay. So watch 145. I like the risk to reward here personally, just simply being that we know that we've got enough information up here. Rejection 145. Okay. Underneath 150 even. Rejection 148. Rejection 148. Big rejection 145. And we got some coming in as well on Palantir. So does Palantir get stuck up here and come down, or does it break out a new high above that 148 into 150 plus? Okay. So I like Palantir just because of where it's located. ARM and MU I've been keeping an eye on. If you've never traded ARM or MU, they are semiconductors. All right. And if they typically have a good setup, I'll look at it. So if, you know, ARM is right here and I know it's, you know, pulling back there, there's some resistance right at 152. It's okay. MU very strong, but it's already made a big move. It's got some resistance. Probably 130 is a level it's trying to get to and above. All right, so those two I'll just watch. Uber, congrats to everybody for listening for the Uber trade. We were talking about it, you know, I would say about a month ago, where this right here, the chart just looked absolutely beautiful. You see that big break, retest, sits on that 83 previous resistance, turns support, and then breaks out of that channel. We had a lot of community members that caught that. All right, trying to target $100. So as long as Uber right now is above these previous highs right there, 93.50. Okay. As long as it, you know, stays above here, right, and tries to grind its way back up, then we got 100 in sight. But just say Uber somehow is like, hey, I don't want to go to 100 just yet. I want to pull all the way back here, reclaim, and then go. All right. So that's a possibility. So I would look at 90 as your support. Nice psych level. What does it do at 90 if we do get a bigger pullback? on Uber, but it is trying to get to that $100 level. Okay. Tesla, nothing to write home about other than holding that 300 level. Looks good. I mean, this could be a bullish consolidation. All right. We talked about that, but I haven't really been trading Tesla personally. So if you do trade it, the chart's pretty clean. Just give yourself wider ranges. It kind of filled that gap already. If it pulls back one more time, yeah, maybe keep 305 as your support right here. Yeah, 305, 306 right there. Okay. Oh, Microsoft. Still nothing. Just another grind, another bounce back above 500. I'm just leaving Microsoft alone until we get a tremendous news article or something. But I do believe Microsoft, I mean, maybe if it loses 500 again and fails it, but that's just extremely bullish right now. I wouldn't even step in front of that. And then also doing calls on it. Just, that makes sense. I haven't traded Meta in a while either because just the grind. So, but as long as Meta's above 715 right here, I'm not even counting in that gap or any of those things until it breaks that level, because that's the market we've been in. We've been in a market that does not want to fill gaps. We've been in a market that wants to bounce at early levels and go higher, right? Even its all-time highs. No one wants to take profits first. So we got to wait a little bit longer for our signals. TSM, I haven't traded TSM in a while, but every time it has a big move, I mean, the contracts are flying on TSM. So I could see maybe if there's some weakness before CPI, but remember we have that CPI report, and I don't want to swing anything into CPI unless it's a good risk to reward, but we want to trade post CPI. But if we do get some weakness, we know what stocks to go to. If we get some strength, we know, okay, just run it again. We'll wait for the next red candle and try to just carry it for calls on a Monday if we trade anything. All right, let me check the chat really quick, see if you joined in. We good? All right, what's everybody? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Moving through it expeditiously, so go ahead and put in the chat if you have any questions for me, or what questions, maybe specific stocks, or hey Brian, can you expound? I've been thinking about joining Leverage University. I need more support, or maybe I've been afraid to ask, but do you offer consults to teach this? Like, those are the types of questions. Being on live, there's no pressure. It's just I'm here for everybody. So if you have questions for anything, now's the time. That's the benefit on live versus hesitating on emailing me or messaging me or whatever it may be. All right. Our little interlude. Let's go to, there we go. So this is a good example of how a trend break would look. So do you see this clear grind here on CrowdStrike, okay, in the cybersecurity space? That's what I mean by the slow grind. When you're in resistance and it's just grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, all I'm waiting for is a trend break, and then we can take it down. All right, probably back down into this 451 or so. Coinbase, just extremely bullish with Bitcoin. I don't know what else to say other than back to trying to get to 400. Okay. Hood, I'm just watching 100. What does it do at 100? And I'm just watching the previous day low, which would be right around 93.50 and 90. So 90 to 93. But as we know, Hood is also a little bit overextended. All right. A little bit overextended on the RSI. And yeah, it's just hard to time it, when things are going to fall. When is it going to happen? But it will happen. And I think that maybe it'll be the end of July. Maybe it'll be one of these earnings reports that does it. I'm not sure. We do have earnings, like I said, with JP Morgan. So this looks like more of a bull flag unless it breaks down out of this. But, you know, if it wants to fill back up to the highs, it does have earnings on Tuesday morning. So JP Morgan could be a good trading opportunity on Tuesday morning. All right. Merck, still love it. Still love it. I think it's just really nice above this like 81, 82 level. See how it kind of mounted above there, right there? Right above that previous high, now kind of using it as support right there, and then seeing if it can bounce and go higher. Right? Okay. Kava. I talked about that on one of the stock sermon Sundays, called it at roughly 79 to 80. It popped the next day. No, transparently, I did not get into Kava. I'm gonna have to wait for some type of red candle potentially, or it may just want to go out of here. But Kava, great chart in my opinion. Look at it right there. Clean level 78. Just look left and you can see where buyers step back in. Now I do like that it's above the daily 20, which is that $80 level. It's starting to get, that was the entry right there, right back above that daily 20 moving average. You can see where the daily 200 is right at 108. So eventually, if it gets strong, it's going to try to retest that one and try to ultimately get above that one as well. Okay. So keep your eye on Kava. I think it looks great. I think it's still a great buy under $100. But we'll just keep an eye on it. HIMS. There we go. There's a little trend break. Nothing to write home about yet, but it is rejecting that daily 20, as you can see. So this is turning into resistance again on HIMS. Does not want to fill that gap just yet. Like that. So I told you where my target is on HIMS. If it wants to continue lower, it's back down in here into 40 and 35. And it would look something like this. I'm just waiting on it to fall. I'm not really looking to trade options on it personally because the IV is so high. Maybe if it cools off, but 97% implied volatility, I'm not really trying to touch that. So shares, great. Dollar cost average, but I personally think in 30 to 35 bucks, great buy if it can give us that little bear flag down lower. CNC, still in it, right? Still in it. So if you've still not picked up maybe some shares of CNC, right? I think it's personally a good risk to reward. I'll just give it that, right? Like maybe it goes down a little bit lower into 27, but I think personally it'll get some type of relief going into its earnings. I mean, look how oversold that is right now. And you're just looking at risk to reward. I'm like, how much lower can you really go? And if you do, like I picked it up at 30 bucks, it went down to 25. Like, okay, cool. A $5 move for a potential of, a $30 move. That's how you look at it, for this risk to reward. If I get in now and it drops, to 25 or so, but now I'm risking $5 to make, $20, $30 on one share. All right. So CNC, I think great pickup tomorrow for some shares. If you want to do leaps or long dated options, I think you could do that as well. Right. And I think this is easy money coming up. Got a target of at least, 40 to 45 bucks in the short term. If it, gets some good positivity. Still, obviously, people have concerns, on the healthcare space in the front, insurance wise, things of that nature, Medicare, Medicaid. But I don't think anything drastic personally is going to be happening anytime soon. I'm familiar with Centene. It's niched. I get it, but I still like the chart. UNH, nothing to write home about there other than does this hold up or does it break down and we go lower back to the low end of the range? ELF, beautiful. There's a trend break right there on ELF. We can get some type of retest. I haven't been trading it personally. I don't like the movement and it got away. It went from 130 to 109 just silently. Lululemon. These are all the ones in the white for me are kind of like my thought process when I see the white is something like that's potentially a leap option or something that shares or it's either oversold or, at a good buy level. I'm typically thinking like more calls when it's in white here. The blue is more of my kind of core trading. It's the tech stocks, the semiconductors, even some finances in here sometimes. And then the green I just keep as, finance. All right. It's going to keep organized. And then obviously the yellow is our indexes. All right. Yeah, I think, again, core list is just going to be, there. And then earnings. So core list, that what we normally trade, and then some of these earnings, Citi, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan coming in hot on Tuesday morning. And then Johnson. Let me look at Johnson because that one always sleeps. J&J. I don't really like the chart of what it's doing before earnings, but, I would say more bullish than anything. Just there's some gaps up above. So Johnson & Johnson's contracts are really inexpensive. As you can see, I can get a 160 for 95 bucks, So it may be worth a lotto potentially. We'll see in the community if we do it or not. If Johnson & Johnson has a big move, when I get some time on it, we'll look at it. But Uh, that is, I think, majority it. Oh, there was one that my mom kept bringing up. Let me do this is it KTOS? Yeah, this one. In the defense sector, all right, look at this chart. If you already knew about this, great. It was brought to my attention. I apologize if, you're like, you don't know about this one. Got too much other stuff to worry about. And I don't trade it regularly. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. But this is very strong here. Bullish, just looks really, really bullish in the defense sector, especially with the war going on. Obviously, in the short term, maybe a little bit overbought. As you can see, the RSI maybe needs to pull back just a little bit. So we'll look at 50 and we'll look at the lower ends of the ranges, maybe for some of these gap fills, like back to 46. That could be something right in here. Previous highs, pull back into there, and then start grinding right back up. Or if it breaks a new high, then we'll trend even higher, and this could just be a bull flag like that. All right. Cool. Well, I'm excited. Excited for this week. I'm excited for some data to come back in. Hopefully Trump doesn't come up and interrupt the party. I know Powell is also this going around. Is he going to retire? Stuff like that. Yeah. Every day is a new day. Every day is a new day, folks. What's going on, Marlon? How are you, sir? How are you? What questions for anybody? Any final last questions for anybody? This was quick. This was a little bit quicker than normal. If you'd like to join Leverage University, more than welcome. If you want to just stay on these lives, learn, get on the YouTube channel, I will be pumping out more content. I know, the weeks have just been meh. Like in our community, like, yeah, people are making money. Yes, like you can make money. Yes, you may be seeing stuff on socials that people make money in trading, stuff like that. But as far as like the price action and the movement, it hasn't been the best because everything, like I said, has been grinding, right? So look at this consolidation. Google, great move, right? Great move for a breakout. All right. Amazon, great move, right? I would love a bigger pullback, but just kind of moving in this channel, break a new high. Cool. So NVIDIA, I actually like the NVIDIA. I mean, it seems crazy to keep trying to short it, but it could be really valuable if this is truly the top and the market wants to pull back. It could be truly valuable to come all the way back down into that gap. So, and I like NVIDIA's contracts are cheap or inexpensive, I should say, and I can go further out and still hit a target potentially or stay closer in the money for the weeklies and, still only pay 175 or, 276 on Monday. Yeah, that's it. That is it. I'm grateful to be back. What's going on, Marlon? How are you, sir? Trent, evening all. What are your top plays based on CPI? Let me pull this out here. What are your top plays based on CPI Wednesday? Let's go to, I think personally, Google and Amazon were just showing a lot of strength on Friday, right? So Google, as you can see there, started breaking out of this kind of downtrend here above 177. So I really want to watch that potentially, that if CPI is good, Google could potentially want to squeeze up into that 185, right? If CPI is good, it may want to take out a new high and go. So I've got Google on my top watch. Amazon, I know Trent's been watching Amazon, right? We kind of called it out on Friday, but no one was able to catch it as far as the entry. But it did exactly what we talked about, okay? So same thing on Amazon. I want to look at that 221 level and then 218. Previous high, support, and then right here, which would be the daily 20. And then those previous highs, which would be 223, okay? So we got to have multiple levels because we don't know how deep it's going to, typically come back. So if we look at if I draw it, it could do this here and then immediately go. and just start rotating right back up. So that would technically be our support. What if it breaks through that and comes lower and then wants to go back up? Okay. So that's why I draw out these different levels, that we can react on the levels and say, okay, is it holding? Is it holding? Is it holding? Let me not jump the gun too soon. But if it starts to hold and I start seeing it curling, then calls. If it gets too aggressive, right, and the candle's more solid and it's just continuing like that, may want to be a little bit more patient to, does it reclaim or does it stay underneath this level now? And then we're coming down. Okay. So does that answer your question? Google, Amazon, Apple, I'll be kind of watching what it does in this consolidation here. And then the semiconductors as a sector. All right. The semiconductors are, in my opinion, a little bit overcooked, right? They've just been running a little bit with the, without the market, essentially, or with the market. This is the semiconductor ETF. Okay. SMH, shaking my head. All right. Breaking a new all-time highs and using that kind of 281 previous all-time highs as a support. If I go into a daily, there it is right there, that 282. So if I do see SMH getting a little bit weaker and start to break this trend like this, right, then I could have some levels down below. And that essentially means, right, that to answer, who was that? Tanveer, right? To answer Tanveer, then I may be looking at some downside plays, right? But we're still so strong that I want to make sure where we're going, right? That these pullbacks just because these be simply balled back up. All right. So yeah, Google, Amazon, I think will be the safest because those levels are pretty clean. And then the semiconductor sector, NVIDIA, AVGO, I'll be watching Palantir a little bit overextended, and then Oracle. So I'll be watching those, but nothing changed. I think Uber is a good chart to watch as well. It's just really nice movement, right? You can very much trust the levels, what it did off those levels. If it holds 93.50, can go back up. It breaks below it. We know we have really nothing back below until 90, and then potentially back through this gap at 88, 86. So I don't mind that Uber chart at all. Just very, very clean. All right. More of y'all joined in a little bit later. I appreciate you. You maybe just got this in your algorithm. Anything that I can cover for anyone, questions, show anything on the charts, talk about, hey, Brian, like, can you talk about the psyche of trading? Like, I can go as deep as that. What do you see as successful? Do you struggle? What do you struggle with? How do you take ownership of losses? Like, anything can come up for you if you'd like me to cover something very quickly before I leave. Just understand, for those that have seen me for the first time or those that don't know exactly what I do reintroduce myself sometimes, that I am a life and business coach for thought leaders and entrepreneurs. That means the majority of my day is spent on kind of one-on-one coaching calls, building out businesses, talking about strategy for businesses. And then ultimately there's a life piece in there where I'm using NLP, communication tactics, to support people, just how to show up better as a thought leader, right? How do I build my confidence? How do I kind of stumble over my words a little bit when I'm speaking. Like, I would love to do YouTube, but like, I'm not good on camera. Like, stuff like that is more of the life coaching realm that comes out. And then the trading piece is just a part of what I do, right? It's just part of what I do. So that essentially means, we learn how to trade. We trade for an hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning live. I get off, answer any questions. We monitor our trades, and then we look at longer dated swing trades and share buying opportunities kind of midday. I like to get my trades in typically the first 2 hours of the morning if I can find something. Okay. We got new features here as well with this. So I can now see this purple stuff next to people's name, Tanveer, like maybe he's commenting the most. I'm not sure what this is, but it's interesting. Maybe you joined something, Tanveer, or you gate, I don't know. Yeah, I can look at MP materials, short OCLO, SMCI, and MSTR. Yep. So we're in alignment. Let me go into MP materials. Ooh. It was a pop, but also a little bit overextension. Which direct is going to fill the full gap or what? How's the options chain look? Spreads are they're decently, yeah, about $15 apart or so. So not bad on the spread. If I go out to the next week, like that's not bad. It's not bad as far as which direction it wants to go though. Right. So I'm looking at the RSI on it, and let me know your thoughts, Tanvir, and maybe just give my feedback. But if I would look at it right off the bat, I'm like, it needs to, a little bit of profit taking or something. But as we know, that it doesn't always happen. It could just sit here until it decides what it wants to do. It could just sit right here and just build and maybe go a little bit higher. Maybe it wants that high again, 50.97 or so. But yeah, if it breaks into the gap, then I think we can get some movement, right? If it breaks into that gap. But yeah, I don't mind shorting it. I like the previous candle. I like, the failure back underneath 50. So I don't mind shorting it. I don't think it's a bad idea if that's what you were thinking. But when you have that strength off of something like this, typically that strength is going to try to continue, right? Instead of it just up and then fall right back down. It could. Seen it before. All right. Does that help? You have a call. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't read the second half. I've got a call expiring Friday, but I'm down 40%. Okay. Call down Friday. Docs. I'm sorry. Chat. Pull that chat back in there. Got a 50 call. Yeah, you would need it to get back, start building and coming back up. I would keep your stop loss very tight underneath the previous day, like pre-market low, right? Because if it can't hold that 44.30, I think it can get a little bit more drastic down into there, and that would be slightly into the gap. So as long as it's holding up, 40, just say 44.50. And then maybe ultimately 45, you could get that rotation, but it is overextended. So you just need to, see what it does in this area right there. Does that help? Just keep your stop loss tight on, especially for Friday, because you do not want to swing it into CPI unless it's, in my opinion, unless it's a lotto. Like you're $5 away, right? Tanvir. You're like, man, I'm $5 away. Can you just do it on Monday or do it on Tuesday so I can get back break even or whatever? So I'll keep your stop loss tight because if you hold it longer and it goes even lower than there, but it seems like you have a decent risk tolerance, so you'll probably hold. Just saying. Yeah, big profit taking. Cool. Well, without further ado, thank y'all so much. I'm getting quicker. Oh my goodness, what in the world just happened there? I'm upside down. Are we about to do that? I'll just stay right here then. Oh, there we go. All right. Peace, love, and blessings to you all. Thank y'all so much. As usual, may flip to short. Yeah, you definitely could. Definitely could. So you could cut it and then flip to short and make your money back. All right. Let me know I can support, help, guide. I know the summer months may seem a little bit slower, or you may see less videos from a lot of traders that people are taking the summer off, right? That's what the New York Stock Exchange is doing. So it'll pick back up earnings season, which is fully in force right